Hey guys, so a couple of you guys might remember this water tank at the old Japanese farmhouse. We collect the water off the roof and then we can use that hose there to fill up watering cans and water our plants. And if we get lots of rain and the tank ends up full, it has an overflow there that goes down into a hose and runs all the way around the garden and off to our fish pond. So everything there was made with materials that were already at the farmhouse, including that hose. So we get lots of rain, fills up the tank, fills up the pond and flushes it out for us. However, this week I noticed that our tank stand that we made a little while ago, made a video about that, was dropping little bits of wood, little shavings, suspicious looking shavings, and this wood was inappropriately soft. Right, so, oh no. So somehow the water's got into the wood. So it's all old materials that we used. Some of you might remember that video. We made this tank stand some time ago, a few years ago. Now it's held up really well, but apparently just this one leg has absorbed a bit of water and become really soft, which is no good because that water tank, when it's full, weighs over 300 kilograms. So we can't be having a rotten leg. So we'd used most of the water already because we haven't had rain for weeks. So there was only about 30 litres in there, probably 40 litres. So we topped up the fish pond, watered some plants, and then pulled the plug. Take the weight off the thing. Don't want it falling over because the tank's in good condition. And over in the workshop we have this, which is possibly the old man might have used it for scaffolding, who knows. But that's fairly substantial pipe. So we got the Unskilled metal worker to put on his safety goggles, safety earmuffs and safety flip-flops and cut up some steel. So first step was the legs. Decided it needed to be about 150 centimeters. So to get it high enough that we can get flow to the places in the garden we need to get flow to, including the fish pond. So it needs to be at least 150 centimeters high. And then you can see there's a wooden thing to the right there, sort of in the center of the screen. There's a brown thing. That sheet was at the top of the old wooden tank stand. So just going to use that just to spread the weight a bit. It's still in really good condition, just to spread the weight a bit on the top. So imagine that's the lid there. It's at the top of the stand. It's upside down. The only thing we needed to buy was those 4 corners and a few right angles that you'll see shortly. So just making some measurements there to get a bit of an idea of where it needs to be. Cutting up some steel. So the thinking is, spent a little bit on those connectors and those corners, but the thinking is if we do this properly, that'll probably be the last tank stand we ever need to make. It should be the end of it, shouldn't it? So just getting the burrs off so it goes into the fitting smoothly. And then there's little screws. Those fittings have little screws, so you put the pipe in and then you do up the screw and that keeps it in place. Not being an engineer, of course, but the right angles is probably what's going to keep this thing in place, keep it all together. Those screws probably don't pay much of a part. The weight's going to be straight down on the legs, so the screws are sort of to hold it together while you're moving it around, but the actual right angles themselves will be what keeps it together, won't they? Theoretically, not being an engineer, there'll be a couple of engineers watching this going, hey, wait a moment. So remove that. That ended up being disassembled, and the coach bolts and other bolts were kept to be reused for other projects, and some of the wood was still pretty good. That got kept, and then the dodgy rotten stuff got cut up to get thrown away. So sort of roughly putting it together to get it to stand up on its own, but aware of the fact that it all has to be put, those cross pieces have to be measured and put so that they are at right angles to make the thing square, right? So the first attempt here, just to get it to stand up, it won't be very square, it's going to be sort of rough. And then it was measured up from the bottom, measured up to make sure that those cross supports are all right angles. So you can see there it's not real square, but it is standing up. That was the goal. Make it stand up on its own, put the top on, which we know is square. And then you can see those cross pieces, we've got to measure those up from the bottom of the foot to make them all square. That and a spirit level. Resulted in a reasonably square looking thing. A few chocks under the feet just to make it flat and level. Put that wooden thing on the top. That's not really structural, that will just help spread the weight. And then we had a piece of plastic that went over the top of that kept that such good condition. So threw that piece of plastic over the top too. Don't know what that used to be. Some desk cover or something, but it worked really well. It protected the wood from the weather. So we threw that on again, put the tank on the top. Just put a few litres of tap water into it just to give it some weight. So you can see there's a screen on the top there. The water goes in and any leaves that come down the pipe from the roof just get blown away by the wind. So that pretty well looks after itself. The water that goes in there has been through the net, so it's all pretty well filtered. Put a few kilos of tap water in there just to give it some weight so it doesn't blow off the stand in the wind. And now what we need is some rain. Perfect. More videos coming soon.